Let's go. 2024 class. Let's lead off here, Z. What comparison will you draw from 2023 to 2024? Because 2023, pretty epic, historic draft year when we look at the recent decade or two. How's it stack up?
Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, obviously 2023, just an incredible draft. Like, every player was really fun to watch. But even with that said, like, towards the end of the season, like, as you're leading up to the draft, you kind of are just like, all right, like, I'm ready to kind of turn the page on 2023. So this is also a very exciting time. The Hlinka Gretzky's, that tournament's coming up in a couple weeks here. That's kind of like the kickoff for the 2024 class. Like, the Hlinka is that kind of like starting point, that first tournament. And this class is a whole lot of fun. It's very different. It's kind of like the polar opposite, where 2023 was certainly the draft of the forward. Outside of a few surprises that we saw early in the first round, it was a pretty forward heavy in terms of like guys with the highest ceilings. It was a super forward heavy class. This class, I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 guys who have legit chances as defensemen to go in the top 10. So it is a very different draft class in that sense. And like another piece I was telling you beforehand is it's a pretty, like, in terms of demographics, where guys are coming from, it's a pretty diverse, like, top end of this draft too, where you've got guys in the USHL headed towards college. You've got guys in the CHL. You've got a couple Russians. You've got Finland. Like, a couple of Finns should go pretty high in this draft too. And it's been a while since we've seen that. So it's a very different class, but a very exciting one nonetheless. Like, obviously, it's probably not going to be as deep as 2023 because this draft was insane. But there's a whole lot of players to be very excited about at the top end too. And I think that's where we'll probably focus more today, of that top 10, and a couple of guys that, you know, are worth mentioning that have first round pedigree. But I'm really excited. This is like the fun part of like scouting a draft class, is like this period where you're kind of getting used to, or kind of studying the players where they've been the past couple of years, how they did in their draft minus 1 year. And then kind of try to figure out the projection and where they all line up. Because again, like at this time last year, there were a whole lot of guys that we were hammering like top 15 for sure, and they fall into the second, third, fourth round a couple weeks ago. So this is a really, really exciting time. And it kind of, it's like I said, towards the end of this past season, like, you really are like, all right, I'm ready for the draft to happen. Like, especially when they haven't played in a couple weeks, like the Memorial Cup happens, and then there's the lull where there's just no like prospects playing before the draft, and you're kind of just like sick of it. And then this is kind of like that fresh start here. So I'm real pumped to get going in 2024. It's a lot different, but very exciting.
For sure. And I mean, you even talked about it when we were covering the draft for our live stream. Braden Yeager, who fell to the Pittsburgh Penguins at 14, you know, he was a guy that was getting top 5, top 3 love about a year ago. A lot of people are painting this as the 2-horse race between Celebrini and Eiserman. Is that how you see it, or do you think there's a bigger field of guys that you think are vying for those top couple spots?
Yeah, I mean, again, super early, obviously. But at the moment, it is really between those two guys, with Celebrini having that edge there. But there are a couple, probably at the moment, maybe like there's 1, maybe 2, if depending on how the year goes. And a lot would have to go right for this guy to like have a shot at going first overall. But you've got the Russian Ivan Demidov, who, I mean, he is a whole lot of fun to watch. Like, I mean, ripped it up in the Russian Junior League this year. Over assists per game, added like 20 goals. And I mean, every time he touched the puck, he was making a play. You know, goal scoring, playmaking, like dual threat. He is unbelievable. He's a real fun player to watch. And again, I say this every time we talk about the Russian prospects. All these games are free to watch on YouTube, just saying. So anyone that actually wants to go watch them, they literally stream the entire game, and it's free on YouTube. There you go.
Well, what are the odds that he's going to end up playing with Mr. Mishkov?
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. You know, well, probably not next year because I think Michkov's going to be playing with Scott in the KHL. And I mean, Demidov ended up, and this is wildly impressive too, he ended up featuring in 2 KHL games as a draft -1 this past year, which is, I mean, there you go. That's how good he is. Like,
So maybe
even to just get that kind of love. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he'll be back up there playing a couple of games. He'll get a look, but I would imagine the majority of his seasons played in the MHL and the VHL. But man, I'm telling you, this kid, yeah, no, it's 43 assists in 41 games in the U20s in Russia. And he added on 19 goals there, but like shifty, he had a couple like 7-point games. It was just like, that team's loaded, but at the same time, he was the one leading the way pretty much every single time I turned that team on. So he is an electric factory, just a real fun player to watch. Go SpokedZ top 10 mode at least like fucking 6 times per game for sure. But yeah, no, he's a whole lot of fun.
Love it. And for everyone, we're going to be going off of the Daily Faceoff top 32 list, the July early ranking. You can find it on eliteprospects.com. That Ivan Demidov is number 4 on the list. We'll kind of reverse and go back to the start here, Z. Number 1 currently, Macklin Celebrini, Chicago Steel.
Stud. Yeah, he's right now in the driver's seat for first overall. I would imagine there's a good chance it stays that way throughout the whole year. Man, this kid is sick. Going to Boston University this next year. So he'll be playing with Lane Hutson and a guy we'll be talking about at the end of the top 10 here, his brother. Had a historic draft -1 season in the USHO at the Chicago Steel this past year. I think it was 50 games. I want to say he scored 46 goals, 86 points. I think he led the USHL as a draft -1 in goals and points. Got Rookie of the Year, Player of the Year. He scored for Canada in their international events. Like, he is no shit, whether he's a center or a wing. Like, his shot is insane. Like, I mean, you want to talk about just dynamic release. The one-timer is an absolute howitzer, but he also make plays too. So, like, another guy that you just defines as that dual threat. The defensive games, it's a work in progress, just like any fucking 17, 18-year-old prospect, even the ones that already play a pretty good defensive game. But I mean, another guy, every time he touches the puck, he's making a play. There's no, like, he's got a plan every time that he touches the puck. He knows what he wants to do with it. He's reading the play like 2-3 plays in advance. He's unbelievable. So yeah, he's in the driver's seat right now, first overall. Again, headed to Boston University, and that rivalry between BU BC is going to be alive and well again, because BC, as we were discussing with the 2023 class, is getting 5 guys that were legit 2023 prospects. They're going there. Celebrini is going to go to BU. Cole Hudson, Lane Hutson's brother, also go to BU. So that rivalry is back. He's going next year. He's going to be, and he'll be one of the younger.
Or what's next year, man? Okay.
Yes, this coming season he's going to be.
Jesus Christ.
I believe he's going to be, unless there's someone that I'm not thinking of, he'll be the youngest player in college hockey. But I mean, you talk to anyone who covers these guys, they're expecting like right underneath Jack Eichel numbers in the NCAAs and Fantilli numbers. So this kid's legit, man. He's a whole lot of fun to watch. He is ridiculous. So right now, yeah, he's for sure the driver's seat for first overall. But I mean, hey, we'll see what happens this year.
Love it. Well, I'm going to be biased and lean all year towards the man Cole Eiserman, who's going to be with the US NTDP, but looking at the following year playing for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, likely replacing Logan Cooley when he departs. Talk to me.
He might actually have the best shot in this draft. Like, his shot draws comparisons with like Matthews, Ovechkin. It is a joke. Shattuck St. Mary's, Minnesota Golden Gopher, eventually. He was just lighting up the score sheet at every like international event with the national team program there. I think in total, I have to actually pull it up because like they do the USHL season and the NTDP. It plays U18, U17. I think the total was like 104 points between those three like leagues or teams or whatever, and 62 games. All this kid does is light the score sheet up. He and this kid who's going to be a top 2025 pick, James Hagens, with the U.S. program, they were insane together at the I think it was the U17s. They both had like 22 points in like 7 games.
It sounds like he's locked to go to Harvard now too, right?
Hagens?
Yeah, because you've got the whole BC line coming from this past draft, and Hagens is the only missing piece for the Gophers, and I'm pretty bummed that that's not transpiring.
He's fucking unbelievable, dude.
I know.
So good. But yeah, him and Eiserman have just already had this connection like with the US program and at the international events. But Cole Eiserman, dude, like he is unbelievable. Like again, it's the shot that really does it, but he also, again, he's capable of making plays. He's not just that single, shooting threat. He doesn't sit in the outside. He's got decent size. He plays a physical game. Defense is definitely another big work in progress for him, but when you can score 50 in your sleep, you don't really care. So, I mean, this kid's going to light it up. He's going to be all over the score sheet every single game. And he's right down from my hometown. He's one town over. So there you go.
How is he going to the Gophers?
Yeah, because he ended up at Shattuck. So there you go.
That'll help.
I gotta pull up.
I don't know. Crosby didn't play for the Gophers, so
I have to pull up. He had really funny. Oh my god, yeah. 2 years ago, so like, was it U14s or whatever with Shattuck St. Mary's, dude? 50 games, 97 goals, 57 assists for 154 points. It's just like,
keep the change.
What do you even do? Like, what do you like if you're playing against that? What do you even fucking do? It's like, all right, we'll just cover everybody else. Just he's whatever, let him find. But he'll be. So, I mean, Celebrini, again, he's in the driver's seat first overall, but Eiserman's going to be right behind. Like, he's right there. He will be challenging first overall, and it's definitely a 2-horse race. It's not like a Bedard situation where it's like Bedard and then the next tier. It's not like it's Celebrini and then Eiserman. It's right now, yes, Celebrini's in the driver's seat, but Eiserman's going to be right there, nip at his heels, and I'm sure there are teams that are looking at the shot and the upside with Eiserman too, and wouldn't mind taking him first overall. So we'll see where the season goes, especially like you said, like Celebrini's going to college next season, and Eiserman's going back to the USHL. So I'm sure he's going to continue to do what he's been doing. Celebrini, I think he's going to be more than capable of producing real good numbers with BU next year, but it'll be a different level of competition for sure. So, even though, I mean, Eiserman's going to be playing against the college kids anyways, because they always do, the US team. So, but yeah, those are the two guys right now that are pretty firmly 1 and 2. Again, like Demidov and Levshunov, we'll talk about Levshunov in a second. Those would be like the dark horse guys who have the legit upside to potentially challenge for first overall if everything goes right in their draft year. But right now it is firmly Celebrini and Eiserman.
Fair. Well, let's just get right into it then. Artyom Levshunov, the Green Bay Gamblers, weirdly enough. Where is he from?
He is a Belarusian. So... but this kid, so I mean, it's funny because they're NHL scouts who, if you talk to them like halfway through the year last year or this past year, they would have said if he was in this draft class, he would have been the first defenseman off the board. Like, he's 6'2", he's a right shot D-man, he skates unbelievably well in transition, he's a beast, and he's got crazy high offensive upside. Like, I think a lot of people have him probably third over a guy like Demidov, even, given the upside with Demidov and how ridiculous of a year he had. But I mean, you're talking about a kid that playing on a not great Green Bay Gambler team in the USHL as a defenseman, 13 goals, 29 assists, 42 points in 62 games. But again, that teams covet that right shot D-man in the first place. Plus he's 6'2", Plus, he plays mean. He's a real good skater. So he's already kind of like, in terms of his overall profile, he's almost a bit of a unicorn for a kid like at his age, with the way he plays and his size. The upside is insane. Like, I mean, legit high producing, shutdown D guy. But again, like, it's the skating and the transition play that just pop. Like, again, another kid as a defenseman, when he touches the puck in his own zone, he's looking to make a play. He's looking to bustle through the neutral zone there, transition. Everything's clean. Like, he just checks every box. So, like, he's a kid with crazy high upside. And I have no idea how they got him to Green Bay. It's funny. There's certain USHL teams who just get some of these super, like, high profile, like, Euros, like, what's his name? Svechnikov ended up in Muskegon. Like, it's crazy. But
God bless him.
It sucks again, man. Like, this fucking Belarus, like, they can't participate in these international tournaments. It really sucks. Because I'd love to see him going up against guys like Eiserman, Celebrini, Demidov.
Sure.
Love to see that with Demidov too. But yeah, no, I think firmly right now, and in the draft class of the defenseman, Levshunov right now is firmly the first D-man off the board. And again, like,
Sure.
it's like there were NHL scouts who said he would have been the first defenseman off the board this past year.
Well, and like you said, the Belarusian factor is going to continue to be a thing. But do you think a factor playing into him going above Demidov when it's all said and done is that he is here? He is in the U.S., and Demidov is, well, probably going to sign for 7 years with Scott.
Yeah. I'm sure that plays a part of it too. But at the same time, like, you're talking, teams covet defensemen in the first place. We saw it even in this past class where, Reinbacher goes where he went. Then you have Simashev going there. Willander went 11. Like,
sure,
teams are going to covet that defenseman in general. But
how high does Arizona pick? How high does Arizona pick?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
A big fucking Russian. Well,
yeah, exactly. Big. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's like that much of it plays the concern, or not even concern, but like leaning Levshunov over a guy like Demidov. But in terms of like defensemen, it's like goalies, like you always say, are voodoo. Obviously, you never really know. And then the next tier is like defenseman. Like, a defenseman could be phenomenal in junior hockey, and then he has to play against NHL forwards, and it's like, holy shit. I have no idea what's going on. There are guys who get drafted pretty high and just never really pan out. Levshunov for me is a real, like, he can't miss. Like, he's that good already. And he's that smart again. Like, the tools, the size, his approach to the game, like, it just translates to the NHL all day. So, it's not surprising that he's firmly, with a lot of people, third overall over a guy like Demidov, even though I think, Demidov's ceiling is insane.
Fair. And we already touched on Ivan Demidov at number 4, so let's jump to 5. We've got Berkly Catton of the Spokane Chiefs in the WHL.
Another unbelievable, like, so again, WHL this past year had like all the guys from 2023, lighting it up. Berkly Catton on a Spokane team, I mean, you're just under a point per game on not the greatest team on the planet. Another guy, elite playmaking. He's got a good shot. He's capable in his own zone too, plays a decent enough two-way game. But like, for me, it's the passing and playmaking that really just set him apart from a lot of guys. And I mean, as a draft -1 to be almost a point per game in the WHL, when the WHL probably, this is the best, like, in that league, I don't remember a year where it was this good with this young crop of players too. And again, it wasn't like he was playing with the best players in that league either. Like, he was oftentimes going up against the best players and still producing. So just the passing ability, though, the playmaking, like, another guy that just like plays with, reading the play 3 plays ahead. Like, he just knows where that scene's going to be, and he finds it every time. He creates it himself. The skill too. He's got crazy hands, like another guy, super high upside. So I think for a lot of people, I'd say he's probably, there's a couple defensemen that are challenging for that 5th spot at the moment. But just you look at his overall game at the forward position, the playmaking, the ceiling there, and you probably, for me anyways, I think I'd also lean there A guy like Berkly Catton. He's going to be a early candidate all name team for sure. But yeah, no, Berkly Catton.
I don't know, dude. There's a couple other ones that we're
there's a
talking
couple
about that are way
unbelievable.
higher than him on the list.
There's a lot. I'll tell you what, 2024 class has some names. Dude.
I've already got 2 guys that are like circled, underlined, bolded.
Hey, one of my favorites out of Sweden, who this is something that I forgot to touch on earlier. He's not going to be a first round guy, but a great name, Leo Salin Hellenius. Another triple action. Yeah, oh yeah.
The third name though is great.
Hellenius. Oh yeah, dude. He's sick. Another low key one. One of my favorites out of Sweden, Zaki Zaki, last name Crooks. Beauty.
I like that. Anyway, at 7, we'll have one of my favorites early on.
Oh yeah.
All right, number 6. Another Canadian, we've got Sam Dickinson of the London Knights in the OHL.
He's definitely a guy that'll be challenging for that 5th spot even higher because, again, he's already playing in the OHL. I think he was on this loaded London team, so like I think there's going to be even more offense to come. He's a very offensive-oriented, big left shot D-man. The skating's a work in progress with him, but it's still good enough. But again, he's big. He can play mean if he needs to. I don't think that's necessarily like his calling card. It's not like his go-to, but I think, he has flashes where he knows how to use his size, but super smart player. Again, solid in transition, really good hands, skilled, real good passer from the blue line, super smart. But another guy who's just like, he's, 6'3", 6'4", playing with real good players, facilitates the play from the back end. And another guy that, like, as the theme, it feels like with a lot of guys that go pretty high and from the back end is their transition play, especially with that first pass, puck retrievals, kind of like facilitating the play from that back end where you're taking a lot of the legwork off the forwards. Another area where Sam Dickinson already excels. I know he's got a lot of scouts love him right around anywhere from like 3 to 6. So another guy, I think he could have a monster year in the O. Good year for the O, by the way. This was 2023 wasn't a great OHL year. I'm pretty sure Colby Barlow was the first guy to go from the OHL, and I think he went 19th to the Jets. 18th, 19th.
No, 19th was the one that broke Minnesota fans' hearts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, no, Sam Dickinson, another one to watch for sure, to be challenging for, potentially top 3 picks. So, big defenseman, defends well enough, skating again, it's getting there, but big, capable of playing mean, real good in transition. He's got good skill. He makes really good passes and makes real good plays from his own zone and inside the offensive zone. So another high ceiling player for sure. And another defenseman that's going to go very early on day 1. I can't imagine he's going to have like we talked about Cam Allen last year as firmly the first defenseman off the board. Then he ends up in the 4th round of Washington. So I don't predict any kind of fall off for a guy like Sam Dickinson. It definitely helps that he's 6'3" already.
That certainly helps. Number 7, a guy that's I'm convinced will end in my top 3 for the all-name positions, which we promise we'll do a better job with this year. But we have Aron Kiviharju, TPS U20 out in Finland.
So he's going to be the guy that early on, I'll tell you, is one of my favorites. He's going to be in the running for my favorite player in this class. He is unbelievable. Like, legitimately worked his way into playing 21 games in the first division as a draft -1 in Finland on a real good TPS team. And a lot of nights was playing like 16 minutes, put up a couple points, but puck moving, crazy skill, facilitates play both from his own zone, but really is capable of running the offense, whether it's, even strength, power play, whatever. Just looking at some of his fucking highlights, if you want to just find any like Kiviharju tape, highlight reel plays in the offensive zone as a defenseman. The big knock, again, he's not 6 feet. So I think, you look at the Holinka last year, he lit it up as the draft -1 player. Easily was like Finland's best player too there. He's legit, man. Like, again, he's so fun to watch where it's just like highlight reel play after highlight reel play. And you know what? For a guy that's undersized, we talked about with like Sandy Pellikka too, where he's certainly not afraid to play physical, and he does, and he looks for that hit too. He's not afraid, which is why he made it 21 games in Liga this year as a 16-year-old, and played fairly well. Like, he's legit. And I don't know. I think the sky's the limit with Kiviharju. Like, for me, he was like, even before like Celebrini and Eiserman really popped off, like he was in that race for number 1 overall at one point early on last year. So for me, probably going to end up being like my son of the draft. But he's another kid, man. He's so fun to watch. And I mean, like some of these games too, I think he was averaging like 29 minutes a night, like playing in the U20s over there. And then he's playing with Finland at the U18s as like the youngest player in the tournament. He's still playing 26 minutes a night. Like, he is a beast. And he's on the ice for very few goals against. So I'm a big fan of Kiviharju. Again, might end up being my favorite player in this draft. And I'm really fascinated to see where he ends up going on day one, because I think he's probably got a higher ceiling than some guys that are going to go before him, because he's 5'9", 5'10". And he's a small kid, but again, it's not like he's a defensive black hole. It's not like he's afraid of contact. It's why he played 21 Liga games this year as a 16-year-old. And that league, like, they're mean. Like, that's not an easy league to play in as a young player. So Kiviharju, legit, one of my favorites, possibly my favorite in this class. And I hope, it's not the case of falls because he's not 6 feet tall, aka 4'10".
How tall is he actually?
5'10", I think.
So yeah, 4'10", that checks out.
5'4", 5'10", 3'10", yeah, same thing.
Fair enough. I mean, they can't all be 7 feet like everyone else you've talked about. So
right, exactly.
Number 8 comes in, same nationality, going to be playing in the same league. We've got Konsta Helenius, definitely going to get some notoriety for all name. I'm going Kiviharju for sure, especially with the Aaron with 1A instead of Aaron. But talk about Konsta.
I love that. So I was telling you before too, like, this is going to be a year for Finland to have some really high profile players and guys that are going to go early. It's been a couple of years, and this year they're really swapping places with Sweden, where it feels like Sweden always has 5-6 guys that are challenging for first round. I don't think necessarily it's going to be that many for Finland, but it's good to see like Kiviharju, Konsta Helenius. It's good to see Finland having like some high end prospects here too. This is a kid that, like, his shot is unbelievable. He's definitely a goal scorer, but he also is a elite playmaker. Another one of my favorites. Maybe I'm just going to adopt Finland this year. Another one of my favorites in this draft class, where like some of the plays he makes, it's just, again, the fact that he's clearly seeing the ice 3 plays ahead every time he's out there. It's another guy, again, I'll say it every time, really, but defense, big work in progress with him. He does not care about it at all. But real fun player to watch, elite playmaker. The passing's legit. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him miss a pass. Another guy, like, I used to talk about, the guy that should have gone first overall this past year, Felix Ungerstorm. I don't think I've ever seen him dump a puck in where every time he touches, he's like, no, I'm making a play. Someone go back door. And he will hold on to the puck, and you won't get it back from him, which is like, yes, that can bite you in the ass, but I do love players that every time they touch it, they want to make a play. And he loves to have the puck. So, like, I would imagine if I could find the tracking data for Liga or the U20 league over in, I think it's like U20 SM Sarya. It's like, come on, like, shorten your fucking league name for fuck's sake. I would imagine he's high up in terms of like most puck touches per game in that league, where it feels like every time he's on the ice, he has the puck. And again, he's looking to make a play. He's a good skater too. He's quick. And he's got the hand speed to match it. So another dynamic playmaker with a good shot. I'm a big fan of Konsta Helenius and I'm a big fan apparently of the Finnish kids in this class. But another guy I'm curious to see if he rises too, because I do think he's that good, and I'm curious to see if how many games he gets, because I think he'll play in Liga this year. I think he's on loan to Ukraine though, off the top of my head, or not on loan. Maybe he is on loan. Sorry. Yeah, no, I love Hellenius, man. Oh, actually, sorry, he played 33 games in Liga this past year, and he put up 11 points, which is ridiculous for a fucking 16-year-old.
That'll work.
Yeah, not bad. Decent player.
All right, so we've established you are adopting the entire nation of Finland this year. Do we have to take that up with your scouting organization that I will not say out of respect?
Smart. No, because again, while Sweden doesn't have a whole lot of guys right now that are projected to go first round, aka maybe one, maybe two, I think it's going to be like a classic Sweden draft class where by the end of the year, I bet there's a couple kids that are climbing, because I do love a couple of the Swedes that aren't necessarily in the whole lot of first rounds right now, but it's also July.
Yeah, fair. This is very fair. All right, then we'll move right along to number 9 on the list. Henry Mews, defenseman for the Ottawa 67s of the OHL, the previous home of Marco Rossi. To those of you in the chat that want to say mean things, how dare you? Henry Mews, what do we know?
Really interesting player, like definitely a 6-foot right shot D-man, so teams are going to love him. An interesting player, though, like decent skater, not the most physical dude in the world, although I think he could be because he's super strong. But he plays just an overall pretty reliable game where, he'll make the occasional high-end flashy play, but I feel like a lot of his game is just surrounded or is kind of like really not necessarily conservative, but just like making the right play. Like I think he's just a super smart player where he's not forcing plays. He's almost like a higher ceiling Ryan O'Rourke and minus the physicality part, where it's just like he knows exactly what he is, the type of player he is. And he's also cognizant of like who's on the ice with him. So he knows where to be at the right times. So again, but he does flash that skill. Like you see it pop occasionally. I mean, I think he put up 31 points in almost, I think it was like 50 something games this year on a real good Ottawa team. And like, by the way, the Ottawa team that ended up trading for Pavel Minchikov. So like, I think he was really popping off offensively at the beginning of the year. And then all of a sudden Minchikov came like, okay, now Minchikov's going to play 30 minutes a night and put up 2.5 points per game. Ottawa was the best team for a long time in the OHL. And again, as a draft -1, Henry Mews was playing a big role, probably playing 24, 25 minutes a night. But he's a right shot D with size. He's super smart, defends well enough. And again, another guy in transition. He's a very good player to have on your team, especially if you're a forward. You don't really have to do a whole lot of legwork. So I like him a lot. I'm just curious to see where the actual like ceiling is with him. But I do think he just plays overall like a well-rounded game. And I'm curious to see if the offense continues just to flash even more and pop, just because you see flashes, you just don't see it every game. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that he's playing on the same team as Pavel Minchikov, who is unbelievable. So, I like him a lot. Again, doesn't hurt that he's a right shot D-man.
That always helps. That's 6'7". So, yeah, that's great. Rounding out the top 10 then, we have American Boy. Are we going to go full Michael Russo on this and say son of Lane Hutson?
Yes. We have Hudson's son. Impressive work.
We got Cole Hudson of the USNTDP and another BU commit, of course.
And you'll never believe it. He's an undersized left shot defenseman who does the same shit Lane does, where he is just fucking lighting up the score sheet, highlight reel plays. The one thing about Cole Hudson, though, is he I think it's more funny just because he is, again, he's also 5'8", 5'9". he's looking for hits, and I mean executing them. Like, he fucking hits people hard. He's super aggressive for a kid that's 5'8". But again, like, U18 Worlds, most points by a defenseman, most assists by a defenseman. Like, he is lighting up the score sheet, and this time he's actually getting like top 10 recognition from a lot of people. Maybe they just like saw Lane Hudson, like, damn it, like, we fucked that one up maybe a little bit here. And they're giving him the call the recognition he deserves. But I mean, it's literally like a clone, but more physical. So another guy that's like just so fun to watch. And it's just, again, it's just really funny because he's 5'8" and he's just like killing guys. And you're just like, how does that even make sense? But another guy, just everybody's one of their favorites to watch because it's just highlight reel play after highlight reel play. And again, like, I think he's a good enough skater too, where he defends well in transition, where he kills a lot of plays before they even like start. So that's like he's got that like defensive upside too. Like, he is legit. And I mean, at the U18 Worlds, where again, like, he's one of the youngest players at the tournament, he's putting up 18 minutes a night on the team that won the gold. I think he had points in every single game, and he definitely assisted. I don't remember if it was the actual game winner overtime against Sweden to win the gold. But I mean, he's playing a big role in every game that he's in especially at the international level. So I'll be curious to see if he does go this high, just because, again, like, I think teams,
they'll fall.
they just can't help themselves, dude. There's like, what about this guy that's like 6'5"? He put up 2 points last year.
You know, as soon as Corey Pronman gets his claws in, it's over.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But I mean, Cole, it's again, it is Lane's clone, but like meaner. But so like Lane also does like to hit people. Like, it's just really funny because I think they're both just like, in a good way, like on the ice, like cocky assholes, like just chirping you, but with good reason, and they will just come and kill you. Like, I that's why I really love the Hudson brothers. Like, they're really fun to watch. I love they're both going to BU too. And again, you got them coming, Celebrini coming, Willander. I would imagine that Willander's going to play with one of the Hudsons next year. So some elite skating, puck moving D-men. It's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. But Cole Hudson, he rounds out. Again, you said that you can find this list on Elite Prospects. You can find it on dailyfaceoff.com.
Again, this is how you got me to it, okay?
No, I know. I was like, I feel like I should mention this part.
Yes, dailyfaceoff.com. If anyone doesn't already go there, whether you use it for like fantasy hockey for starting goalies or just to see the latest rosters and depth charts for teams, Daily Faceoff is awesome. I gotta say too, though, we use this list specifically because it's one of the only ones that has a firm top like 32 right now. So it was, and we felt like the top 10 was pretty close to the consensus right now. I was going to say, you're pretty upset about Pronman, so we didn't include that.
Not upset.
Disagreeing heavily.
That's okay, though. Yeah. That's what makes scouting fun.
Exactly. So I think you've already pretty well established that the lowest floor, just given size, right, would be Cole Hudson out of the defenseman we just talked through. But out of the group, would you say that he's potentially got one of the higher ceilings, or across the group, like, who has the highest ceiling and then the lowest floor outside of Cole Hudson?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Levshunov, it's easy. He's got the highest upside.
Okay.
In terms of,
I figured he had the highest floor. I didn't know if it's upside match.
And yeah, that's the thing. It's like he's one of the rare cases where like, he's super safe, but like the upside is insane. Where like you're even like just betting on the upside to hit.
Sure.
Because again, like, right shot always helps. 6'2" always helps. Really good skater, big plus. So I would say he's definitely the guy with the highest ceiling from the back end. But I think that is a high floor too. So I would say he's like, again, it's hard to. I don't really care because I don't really care if I look stupid later. But like when you want to label a prospect on the back end like as a can't miss Like he checks all those boxes that makes you think like, yeah, no, he's gonna play and like be a top 4, no shit, like without a doubt, top 4 D man.
Short of a monumental collapse, can you see him having a good enough year that he could push for 1 or 2?
Yeah. I mean, he's got the upside, and again, like a right shot D man, I think it's going to be pretty hard for anyone to pass Celebrini and Eiserman. But if you want to find, again, we said this early on, like 2 guys that could, depending on their year, and it would be really hard for the other guy. But like Levshunov and Demidov are the 2 guys with like the ceiling that's high enough that you could potentially see a world where it happens. But I still think it would take pretty much everything going right for both of those guys and a whole lot of things going wrong for Celebrini and Eiserman to not go 1 and 2.
Fair.
But it's July of 2023, so we'll see.
This is all very true. All right, then we had 3 other guys that fell into the teens for this list that you wanted to make sure we made note of. Coming in at number 13 on this list, we have Canadian Tanner Howe of the Regina Pats in the WHL. Let's hear it.
So he's a guy, and the reason I really wanted to talk about him was because, I mean, he put up, 85 points in the WHL this season, playing on Regina with Connor Bedard, and now Bedard obviously is not going to be there next year, so it's a case where you could see his stock continue to rise if he continues to do what he did. Because I will emphasize, Regina, especially now that Bedard's going to be gone, that is not going to be a very good team. But the thing with Tanner Howe is he was most often time like playing as a number 2 center, so he really wasn't playing with Bedard. And he still did what he did, which is wildly impressive as a draft -1 in the WHL in a year where the WHL was insane. So that's why he's kind of found himself pretty high up in a whole lot of rankings. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this coming season has for him or what he's able to produce. Just because, again, like what happens with Bedard gone, like for the entire team. But he's going to be a real interesting. He's an older player in this draft. So he's got that going for him where like he is pretty physically developed, even though he's not the biggest kid in the world. He is a mean bastard. And he's also got high-end skill. He's got a real good shot. He is a weapon in the offensive zone. And he's got the added, like he wants to play mean every time he touches the ice. So he's a really fun player to watch because he's going to do something noticeable every time he's out there. But again, I think I really want to touch on him because like you could see a situation this year where like, hey, like Bedard's gone and he's still even better than he was last year on a not so good Regina team. Or, you know, if does it have like the inverse effect where he's, you know, the point production takes a big hit. He's not that noticeable. So he's going to be a really interesting one to watch this year. But I'm betting on him continuing to do what he did. Because again, a lot of times he wasn't playing with Bedard because he was playing in that number 2 center role. So definitely gonna be a real interesting one to track as the season goes here.
Love it. Number 15, we have an interesting one here. Technically, off Russo logic, this is the son of one of your former draft children. So this is actually your draft grandson.
Yep.
Adam Jiricek out of Czechia.
And what do you know? He's a right shot defenseman. You know what? With him, he especially in the junior ranks, like he was making like a lot more high-end offensive plays. Maybe not a whole lot more, but he also plays like his brother. I think he's got more offensive upside, but at the same time, he's like the clone defensively, where he's a big boy that plays physical. He's mean, defends well, but he's got the two-way game. So it's like it's very similar like player, but like I think he does flash more offensive upside at times. And I mean, he eats minutes. Like, he's another guy just like his brother, where he's on the ice, it feels like half of the game. Played in the Czech first division for like 12 games this year, which is obviously wildly impressive because that, especially for like a defenseman, that's a tough league to play in. Because, I mean, some of these hits on these poor bastards retrieving pucks, like I mean, menacing. The fact that he was able to play 12 games, you know, in the pro league as a draft -1, because that's not an easy league to play in for a young player. You know, wildly impressive there. Not like, I don't even know how to say his team's name. It's PLZEN. I think it's, I don't know. I don't even know. Pulzen, whatever. But he fit in like and played more than capable. You know, I think he ended up featuring in Czech pro playoff games, but like he didn't actually touch. They just had them on the bench. Just a vibe guy. That's what it says to me. So automatically he's gonna be one of my sons. But just like his brother, he's big, physical, legit offensive upside, mean bastard in his own zone. But he's got a fucking howitzer of a shot too. He's a real fun player to watch. So again, I love that we got Adam Jiricek, we got Cole Hutson in this class.
That is fun. So PLZEN. Like, I'm just gonna go from the hip and say that it's some weird European shit where it's like turns into an F. It's Fen.
I feel like the Z's got to be like a ch. You know what I mean?
With a P and an L.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why it really tripped me up.
It's Fen. I'm going with it.
We love that.
FEN is how it's pronounced.
Rick Dvorsky.
Dude, I'm still so sad that Rick went to the fucking Blues.
Ricky.
Get old Rick. We haven't come across anyone that needs to be Rick yet, just because everyone's name.
Oh, we'll find.
I mean, Levshunov. I'm not even 100% sure how to pronounce his first name. Artyom. Artyom or
Artyom? You know, there's another real good one. Brother got drafted a couple years ago. Brother is and you'll know him out there. Shai Buim. Jesus, was it Buim? I don't know. His brother's in this class. He'll go first round. His name is Zeev. Zeev. And he's legit, dude. He's fucking good.
Name.
Yeah. Zeev Buim.
That's pretty cool. That almost rivals this next name here that I think early on has to be leading the all-name team charts at 16 out of, is that Norway or Denmark?
He is
not great on my flags.
He's a Norwegian.
Norway. We have another three-namer, Michael Brandsegg-Nygard. What a fucking name. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's playing in Sweden, so you're going to be all over him this year.
Well, which is why I said that we had to mention this guy, because he's probably the one Swede that's firmly in the first round. He's legit. Big right winger, good shot, real good playmaker. And I think the upside's super high with a guy like him. But like the big thing that stuck out for me this year is how aggressive he was. But even then, he went, and again, he's playing a lot of games in the Allsvenskan, so the same league that Dvorsky is playing in, and he ended up playing in some playoff games and fitting in more than adequately. So he's already playing a pretty advanced game just in terms of like being able to like play in hard situations where it's not just he's out there to play junior hockey in Sweden and like put up 1 million points. And again, like I talked about this with our other triple name guy, Oscar Fisker Molgaard, not out of Norway. He was out of Denmark that went to Sweden. But this was Brandsegg-Nygard's first year in Sweden. Before that, he's playing in Norway, his junior hockey. And he comes over this year to Sweden, over a point per game in the J20 on a non-playoff team. Again, goes and features in Allsvenskan games, puts up a couple points there, plays in playoffs, like fits right in and has kind of just like an overall like approach to the game that I think ultimately translates really well to the North American style too. Part of that's just the aggression. And just like the plays that he makes are, yes, high end, but like the kind that you see in the NHL, where I'm not. And again, the dual shot that helps too, but I just think he's going to ultimately translate really well, just his approach to the game. I think he has the advanced kind of like two-way game too. But another guy I'm a big fan of, but the big reason I wanted to mention was just the fact that he's like the one Swede for the first time ever that's like firmly in this first round. And I say Swede as in based out of Sweden. So that's one of the guys that I scout. Yeah. One of the guys that I scout. So there you go. There's not a whole lot of guys at the moment, even though there's one other guy, great name too, that I think is firmly a first round talent for me.
Well, then let's hear it.
Big center, Simon Zether with a Z. Beauty. Playing for Rogla, beast. Unbelievable playmaker, great shot, plays a two-way game, physical, mean, love him. One of my favorites out of Sweden. I think a guy that should go first overall. It helps that he's a big right shot center.
I was just going to ask, is he a midget or is he 7 feet?
No, he's 6'3".
So 7
big
feet
boy.
Tall.
Yeah, so he's a giant. Andre the Giant, same thing.
Simone the Zether.
40 beers on a plane.
Probably. Legend. I think that's it. I think we did it.
That rounded out.
We did the thing.